Hi, hello, good day. So, welcome to the fourth session on Unix shell scripting. That is shell scripting for DBAs exclusively. So, we are in the third session, we are in the fourth session now. And in this, we are going to now see in detail about the bash environment. That is the second chapter of this complete course. And in this chapter, if I scroll back and come back to the index of this complete document, the topics that we are going to cover in this particular session would be about the initializations of the bash environment and what are the variables and how do we basically play with variables inside a shell script, and then we are going to see expansions and aliases. So these are the three topics that we are going to cover in this session, and the rest three topics are added to the next session. So quickly coming back to the topic that is initialization. So let me actually explain you what is initialization actually means, and what would be the discussion from that point of view. So initialization is nothing but how does a shell starts up. As soon as you log into the server, you have been so far logging into the server, that is the Unix server, through the putty session. We call it as a terminal, isn't it? But as soon as you log into the server through the terminal like putty, what exactly happens at the background? And what is that will be initialized for you, and what happens at the background, and something happens, and with the help of which you will be able to access the shell, and you will be able to run some commands on the command line. So let me first of all connect to such environment, and then I'll explain you what is happening at the background as soon as the shell is becoming available to you. So as we do in every session, so I'm connecting to one of the environments where I have Oracle 12c installed. So I'm logging in with Oracle user. Now as soon as the authentication has become successful, there is something happening at the background before your cursor comes back to the command line console here. So at the background, what is that it starts? It performs the initialization of a shell. That's where I said the first command, if you just type echo shell, it is first of all starting the shell for this user called Oracle. From where is it basically starting this shell for you? As I said, it will actually find this from this user profile, whatever user is logging in, and it reads that user profile, and based on that user profile, the shell will be loaded. That loading is what called as initialization. So as I said, it is from /etc/passwd grep Oracle. You will find that for this Oracle user, the default shell is bash, and that's the reason as soon as you log in through the terminal, bash shell has been initialized and it has been started for you, and the command line console is now available to accept any commands for bash. When I say bash, it is born again shell. So now, having understood these basics, apart from loading your shell, your server will also run some scripts at the background. What are those scripts? Let me show you here. First thing is, it will run /etc profile, which is nothing but it will include a few of the lines called what are the default variables that has to be set. Do you now think? Let me give you a small hint. As soon as I log in, how is this environment variable called shell is created by default? There should be somebody who created this variable, isn't it? It doesn't happen magically. There should be some process at the background which assigns the value of this variable as bash. Who does it? And very similarly, as soon as I log in, who is actually setting up my variable, path variable to this value? Is this any magic? No. Definitely there is a process, and that will basically assign this value to it. What are those things is what our discussion would be. So to see that, whenever any user that logs into the Unix terminal, basically there will be hidden files which will be running. So on the Linux environment, it is basically just type ls-la, you will be finding the hidden values or the hidden files in your default home location. So whenever you log into the server, the path wherever you will be, that path is called as home path. And in that home path, whatever you see as the hidden values, these are the hidden values. Sorry, it is not value, hidden files. So in these hidden files, What are the list of things that it will be running as soon as it establishes a terminal for you? As I say in the document, the first thing is it will go and run etc profile, but it doesn't run it just like that. But let me show you what happens. Let me cat the value called .bash_profile, and as you see in the .bash_profile, what is the first thing it is doing? As soon as somebody logs into the server, please remember .bash_profile is the first file that will be executed at the background as soon as the shell is loaded. So as soon as you log into the server here, you give username, password. Before you get this console to accept any of the commands that you type, at the background, your server will run .bash_profile as an example so far. In the bash_profile, what is there? Whenever it runs, I am saying that in the bash_profile, go and run this file which is in the same location. So in the same location, can you see any other file with the same name? Yes. So it will in turn go and run, let me read the content for you, run this file called .bashrc. What is there in .bashrc? Again see, everything which is starting with hash is nothing but a comment, right? That's the reason it doesn't run this, it doesn't run this, it neither runs all these things. But the only thing it runs is, again, /etc/bashrc. Now if you go and read the content of this file, now you will understand these are the different conditional statements that it will be executing as soon as somebody logs into the server. And please remember, not only this, let me come back there for you after this is done. As you see here, every time when somebody logs in, all the files which are in this location called /etc/profile.d, which are ending with .sh, all these files are being executed for you. That means if you go to this cd followed by this location, and in this location if you just say ls-ltr, any files with the name sh, see these are the list of files which are available in this location. As soon as somebody logs into the server, these are the list of files which will be executed at the background. That's the reason VI editor works for you, less command works for you, something like that. And please remember, in case if you have some set of scripts that has to be executed as soon as somebody logs into the server, it is always recommended that you create script here saying that, touch example.sh. It can be anything. Create your own script here in this location. What happens at that point of time? As soon as every time when the user logs in, this particular script will be executed by default, because we have clearly understood how is the script that has been written by the Linux operating system works. Saying this, it is not only the way. There are multiple ways also. To make the life little more simple, let me come back to our earlier discussion. So as I was saying at the first point, this is the first file that will be executed as soon as you log into the server. This is on the Linux environments. But in AIX, if you see, it will not be .bash_profile. Instead, it will be only .profile. Alright, so just for your information, any file or the directory name which is starting with dot means it's a hidden file or hidden directory. Now coming back, to make it little more simpler, if you have anything that has to run as soon as you log into the terminal through putty, you can also write it here. See, this is why it is happening that as soon as somebody logs in, the first script is this one, it runs, and after it runs, by that time all the environment variables like home is already set and path variable is already set by this point of time. And as soon as it is set here, you can see that we are assigning a new path variable here, again here. That's the reason every time when you log into the server, the path variable will be defined with your local home directory as well. See here, this is the local home directory, because I said $home /.local/bin, $home has been replaced with /home/oracle.local/bin. This is added to the existing path variable, and along with that /home/oracle/bin is also added. See, that's the reason every time when you log into the server, these two will be added with the help of existing path variable which is set by this point of time. So if you have anything that has to run automatically as soon as you log into the terminal every time, it is always preferred that you can edit that. Whatever has to be executed, you can add that in that bash_profile. Having said this, if you have any scripts that has to be executed before you log off from the terminal, you can give such scripts in .bash_logout. Now if you see what are the existing things in .bash_logout, there is nothing at this moment. But in case if you have something to be executed as soon as you exit from the Putty terminal, it can be for the auditing purpose, or it can be for if you have any set of commands that has to be executed before the user gets off from the command line console, you can have those scripts listed here. And please remember, we have seen so far, running scripts is like // and then script name, or dot followed by something else, but dot space file name is also there, which works the same as the earlier one. So if you have a script, for example, we have been writing scripts like this, and just as an example, script1.sh, I have this script running, and if I say dots space script1.sh, see what happens. It does the same thing. So this is another way of executing scripts. That's the reason if you find in .bash_profile, it will be executing files with dot space followed by tilde. What is tilde? I will tell you. It is coming up in next few minutes. And then this is the file it is running. This is how, every time when the user logs in, that's what the initialization happens at the background. Now please give some, exercise to your skills. What is that? Now if you have anything that has to be set by default every time when you log into the server, you can go and edit your .bash_profile, include whether it is variables, include whether it is files that has to be executed, or include anything that has to run without you being executing every time. For example, every time when you log in, you execute .ora-env, right? Why do you execute it? To set up the environment variables. What are the environment variables that you will be setting? We run the .ora-env to set the environment variables like Oracle Home. Oracle Home, it should be uppercase, and Oracle SID, or it should be it can be path variable to be updated, and it can be Oracle base. So these are the environment variables will be set with the help of .ora-env, right? So instead of you doing this every time when you're logging into the server, if you have only one database on that machine, why don't you basically add all these variables into .bash_profile? That means every time when you log into the server, you don't need to basically run .ora-env, because all the variables you are manually setting it by writing the entries into .bash_profile. This is one of the solutions, I should say. But I will not be giving all the hints for you at this point of time, because you can think what you can do to make your DBA life more easier. That's the main reason of this course, isn't it? So I hope you will give that try to see where this complete course can fit into your environment to make your DBA life more easier. So having said this, come back to the document. That's what it says actually. So bash logout and configuration files, yes. And now let us see, I have set of activities for you which will help you to gain some of the this one. So as I told, ls-la is to list out all the hidden files also in the user directory, and we have also seen the contents of that bash profile, bash rc, and also bash logout. And we are going to see now how is the working model of bash rc. We have also seen that we have went into bash rc and we have seen what is that bash rc in turn will execute inside the server. And now let me tell you, if I assign some variable in .bash_profile, how does it work? So probably there is no variable at this point of time on the server called $test, right? But at this point, if I now just say .bash_profile, and I'm in different location, bash profile will exist in the Oracle home directory. So that's the reason vi.bash_profile, and in here I'm writing another variable called test is equals to, so what is that I have given here? It's user defined variable. Alright, so it has to be in double quotes here. Alright, now I am saving and exit. So now what is that I'll do is I'll create a new session, okay, and I'll close this one. because it has to reload everything, right? This is not only the way, there is another way. Without closing the terminal also, you can reload all the contents in .bash profile. How is that possible? We are going to discuss that later, no problem. And now because I logged in again to the terminal, that means .bash underscore profile is the one that must have ran at the background already by now. So now just check whether you can directly see that test variable is set. See, it has been set because it has ran that bash underscore profile at the background, and in .bash underscore profile this variable value has been set. So that's the reason I can see the variable value without setting it manually again. This gives you a very good proof that .bash profile is the file that runs every time when you log into the server, and this is the one that will run from your current home directory. If you log into the Oracle, it will run .bash profile from the Oracle user. If you log in as any other user on the operating system, every user home directory will have bash underscore profile. It will run that bash underscore profile file. That's how it works. So this is one of the sets of how the initialization happens in the bash environment is what I wanted to basically explain with the help of topic number 1 and also these activities. Now let us see variables and characters. Now whatever we have done so far, that we have given an entry in path, we have given an entry in bash profile saying that test is equals to something. But what is test? Test is nothing but our variable name. So can you define variable names like this? Yes. This is what we call it as user defined variables. And just like this, there are other predefined variables also which you cannot use it for your scripting purposes. What are they? For example, you cannot create or you cannot use the variable name called path for anything else on this scripting side because it is already predefined and it is used by the system. Similarly, you cannot use or you cannot create any other variable name called shell and you cannot use it ahead. But in case if you do it, the value will be overwritten. It doesn't throw an error. That's again another feature of Linux. If you are trying to use path variable for something else, and in case if you just say, if you forcibly say, without having knowledge, if you set the path variable to /home, that's it, it doesn't throw any error. But what happened? Your path variable value has gone, which is system defined location. So all these locations is gone. So be very careful. It is very important to identify if you are trying to define your own variable name. Do not create pre-allocated variable names on the system like path, shell. So far we have seen $home. So echo $home. If you see, it is the home variable which will be set as soon as you log in. So every user will have his own home directory. So you should not use them. So in case if you should not use them, definitely you should know first of all what are the list of reserved variables in the bash environment, isn't it? So let me actually show you what are they. What are the default environmental variables in the bash environment? That's what this particular chapter will tell. But before we go detailed into it, let me tell you what are the two types of variables that you can have. You can just say global variables that will be basically visible when you say env. So we call them as environmental variables. That's the reason the command is env. Now see the beauty. As soon as you type env, you can see that the list of variables, whatever you are seeing, these are global variables. What does it mean? Any user who logs into the system, because we are on the Linux machine and we logged in as Oracle user. But on the same server, it is possible that any other user called XYZ can also log in. So whatever variables that we are seeing, these are global variables. That means these variables remain same to any user who logs into this system. That's what this command means for you. And now the next one is local variables. When I say local variables, as I said, you can set your own local variable called test. Will you find this test variable on any other user who logs into the system? No, because this is the variable that you have defined in your .bash underscore profile, and it is clearly visible only to you, but not to the others. Correct? So we call them as local variables. So variables are basically defined into local variables and global variables at a higher level. But variables are also many types, depending on the data types also. the variable that we have defined, basically it's a character variable. And if you define a variable where it will only have the numbers in it, it's a number variable. Like this, histogram size, you say 1000. So this variable is called as number variable, isn't it? That's how, these are also, variables are also categorized like that. So string type variables, integer variables, constant variables, array variables also. When I say array variables, we will be seeing what is arrays and all in the next further chapters in detail. But at this moment, I don't want to go in detail about it. Array is nothing but, you must be probably knowing by now. So ABC of 0 can be one value. ABC of 1 can be another value. ABC of 2 can be another value. So in this example, ABC is called an array with 3 values in it. So that's how we call it as arrays. Now, how do we create a variable? We have already seen it. And please remember, in case if you wanted to have the variable name available from one shell to the another shell, let me give you a very good example. If I say echo $test, the variable name is visible in which shell? I am in bash shell, so it is visible. Sorry, echo $shell, it is visible in my bash shell. Now if I redirect myself to the const shell and if I say echo $test, so there is no value at all. So when I move from one shell to another shell, the variable, if you are creating local variables, those variable values will not be carry forwarded to the next shell if you are redirecting yourself. Now let me give you another example. Now if I say instead of just test is equals to it's user defined variables, if I say here as export test is equals to, it is user defined, where is it? Yeah, this is the value. This variable value will be visible on the local shell. Now if I redirect myself to the const shell and again if I say echo $test, see, it is also visible here. So now I wanted to make a note for you saying that if you wanted a variable value that has to be carry forwarded from one shell to the another shell, whenever you are moving yourself from one shell to another shell, then please use export. If you don't use export also, the variable values will be assigned, but that variable value will not be carry forwarded to any other shell if you are trying to move from one shell to another shell within the script itself. You might be getting such situations whenever you are writing the scripts, but it is very important to please remember them because you might be feeling very much, confusing and irritating at that point of time to see why your variable value is not carry forwarded to the next script when I'm calling it there. So make sure whenever you are writing some variables, use export as a as a prefix. Alright, now you see, that's what I'm saying. Use export variables if you want to move from one shell, current shell to other shell. That's what this statement says. And as I said, it is my duty to give you all the reserved variables so that you don't basically use them in any of your scripting. Whenever you are writing scripts, do not basically try to use all these default variables. But for some time, for some period, whenever you are new to this complete scripting, these variables, remembering these variables might be a little challenging because you have to come every time to my document, search the name that you wanted to give, make sure it is not there as a reserved word, reserved variable, and then go on to use it. But please see, you don't use all these things. So mail, IFS, home, CD path, opt arguments, opt in IND index, and for born again shell, something like this. Bash reserved cells are also available in born again. That's what it means. So bash environment, bash version. So just for an example for you, this is one of the variables. As I'm saying that it is reserved, let us see if there is any value for this variable. See, yes, we are using bash version 4. That's what it says. And if you just say $bash, see, it is also there. So that's the reason don't use it, because these are the environment variables which are by default at the background already in use. Alright, so these are the list. Please make a note of it, and it is only for your information to make sure that these are the lists that you don't use it. And one more thing is PPID. What is PPID? Every user who logs into the server, he will have background process running at the background on the server. So if you want to use your own process ID on the server, it says that 2970 is the process ID for this. What is it I'm trying to say? Just try to compare it with the task manager. For example, if you say in the task manager, You see, every user that logs into the server will have an ID here. See, 2. So 2 is the background process ID for every user who logs into the system. This is on Windows. So very similarly, on the Linux also, every user who logs into the system will have a process generated. A process will be running at the background. So this is the process ID for that particular, for your session which got established on that server. That is what PPID says. Alright, so now let us come back here. So this is just a list for you. And now comes very important called as special parameters. So we have seen so far what are variables, how do we declare variables, how do we make sure variables carry forward to a differential as well. But now it is very important for you to learn what are the different parameters, special parameters available so that you can use maximum out of it. So before I go ahead here, let me actually come here to the activities and show you this example. And one of such parameters, okay, so I'm not going to go in detail about each and every parameter I have given here, but very importantly, I'm going to show you with the help of some example, what is the meaning of $? What is the meaning of $1, $2, $3, and also what is the meaning of $hash. So these are the things that I'm going to explain you, and then we will come back to the topics of quotations. So first, every time when you execute a command on the operating system, we are definitely seeing that there is a result out of it. But whether it is a successful result or a failure result is very, very difficult for you to actually, identify when you're running a script. Inside the scripts also, you might be running user-defined functions. You might be running, predefined functions. You might be running your own programs, case loops, for loops. It can be anything. But whenever if you wanted to verify whether every time when something is executing in the shell, whether it is successfully executing or throwing some error inside the shell, can be identified with the special character called $? Now because you have executed a command, it has executed successfully, that's the reason you are seeing the result. Now if you wanted to see whether it is successful or not, just say echo $, you will see the result as 0. So what is the meaning of 0 as the output? The meaning is nothing but $? Will tell that the above command, the earlier command before you ran this one was successful with the value called 0. If the above command, whatever you ran, is not successful, for example, there is nothing called system. So this is command not found, that means it's an error. Now if you see $? There is some value in it. Now what is that it means? $? Will tell you whether the earlier command, just earlier, it doesn't actually tell you the number for date command that you have ran. But as soon as you ran something, if you wanted to verify then and there, you can just go and say echo $? And if the value is non-zero, that means the earlier command has been errored out. But if the $? Value is 0, that means the earlier command has been executed successfully. This is what $? Means. This is one of the functionalities of the special parameters which I have just said. Now, to explain you the other special parameters, I wanted to create another script called script3.sh. So I'm coming back to this and I would say go to scripting and then run this. I wanted to create a new file. So the new script is like this. Let me write the script and then I'll explain you what is this script actually. So by now you guys know what is echo, right? So see here, I'm creating one of the variables called, pos pair 1 and pos pair 2 and pair 3. Now see here, instead of this one, basically we are not using it, and you can also say echo, for example, $, pos pair 1. Alright, so now here see, there is a meaning for this pos pair in the positional parameters. That's what I have used, pos pair. So there is nothing else there. And now please remember, I am using here $1. What is $1 means? The first argument that you pass along with running the script. I'll tell you what it is. Next, the second value that you are passing along with running the script. The third value that you are passing along with running the script. What is that I am doing? First of all, I'm assigning all these values to variables called 1, 2, 3, 4. And now see here, echo, this is the value that you have first passed into these parameters. I'm using backslash here. What is the backslash? I'll tell you. Backslash will allow you to display the content as it is. That means it will display $1 instead of value of $1. $1 is nothing but the value of the first argument that you have passed along with it. Now see here, $hash will tell you how many arguments did you pass. Now see, how does this script run? So I'm catting the script for you for your future purposes, and now I'm giving executable permissions for this script. So if you say this, that's fine. Now just say /script3, and now if I say 1, 2, 3, now see here, it is saying that 1 is displayed because I said echo $positional parameter 1. And because I said $1 has been assigned to positional parameter. What is the $1 I said? $1 is nothing but the first value that you have passed along with executing the script. So along with the script, the first value that I have passed is 1. Second value that I have passed is 2. Third value that I have passed is 3. That's what it says. 1 is the first positional parameter that you have specified. That's the reason it is $1 value. 2 is the second positional parameters. 3 is the third positional parameters. And total number of positional parameters that you have passed is 3. And now you can say example value given testing. How many did I pass? 4. So the end I am seeing only 4. But because the script is written in such a way that it has to only give you output of only 3 variables that you have passed, that's the reason you are seeing example value and given. That's it. But testing is not displayed because there is nothing I'm saying echo $4 here. But I'm saying $hash here. So it is saying that total number of arguments that we have passed along with running the script are 4. So this is one of the examples that I wanted to make use of to explain you the functionality of the special parameters. So please remember these special parameters and use them wherever applicable for you. Alright, so I think by now you must have got some idea about what is special parameters and how do we use it. Now quoting characters are very important. What are the quoting characters? Escape. To escape you have to use backslash. That's the reason I said in the script, let me come back. In the script we have used $1 and we have also used backslash $1. But what happened in the result? $1 has been replaced with the value of that variable, but backslash $1 has displayed exactly the same after the backslash. So in case if you wanted to escape this $, that means you don't want $, to be going and getting the value, but instead you wanted to display $, as $, you have to use backslash. If you don't use backslash, $, to the shell script means it will go and search for the value of that variable name. So if this is the example. If you say $1, it will go and give you the value of $1. If you say backslash $1, it says no, $, has to be printed just like that. I don't do anything else. That's what backslash means. And single quotes is also very similar to backslash. But in case if you have something that has to be, in the form of a sentence, and if you wanted that to be displayed as it is, without considering any characters in that statement, you can use single quotes. And I'll be explaining this with the help of something like this. So what is that I'll do is, I'll assign a variable called test is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the variable value. If I just say echo $test, we know that the value of this test variable is displayed. Cool. Now if I say echo backslash $test, it will just display $test just like that. This is why backslash is used. Now, in case if you just say echo in single quotes $test, it is the same as backslash. See here, whatever you write in the single quotes in the echo, it prints it exactly like that. And in case if you use double quotes, it will print the value of it. That's what we have used in the earlier example also. See here, in the script completely I have used double quotes. And inside this double quotes, whatever is that you have given, it will accept the dollars and also the text. If you say is the value, so you say 1, 2, 3, 4 is the value, that is what you have got. It is literally proven in the above example also. These are the quotation marks that we will be using throughout the scripting journey that we are going to do. So going ahead, that's the reason I'm making sure that these quotation marks and the variables and the syntaxes, whatever we use, are appropriate for you to understand. Alright, and the next one is there is another way of setting up the environment variables or running a bash profile. What is it? For example, every time when you have updated your bash profile, if you wanted to check whether it is running or not, you have to log out and log in, right? No need. You can directly use a command called source. Whenever you say source and the file name, it will reload everything from that. So source is nothing but, again, dot followed by executing it. Sourcing is nothing but executing it. Now I'll tell you one example. If you have set of variables that has to be set by you, so instead of writing them, just open a log file, text file, and then set up all the variables that you have got there. This is very important because this is what I'm going to use. So what is that I'm saying? I'm creating this log file, but did I give any executable permissions to it? No. This is what the difference you have to make a note. I did not give any executable permissions to it. Now, can I run this file? Because there is no executable permissions, I cannot run this file. But just check if the test1 is variable value is set or not. No. But the test variable value is given inside this log file, right? Now, if you just say source followed by variables.log, now if you say echo $test1, see what happens? The value has been set. What is source now? Source will in turn go and set everything, and it runs at the background without having executable permissions. So that means whatever you have given the variables inside this log file, all these variables are set now. So this particular exercise you can use in case if you have updated your bash profile with something new, and if you wanted to test it, you can just say source followed by dot bash underscore profile. That's it. That means your bash profile will be reloaded without you logging off and logging into the terminal. This is what I just said earlier when I was logging off and logging in. You can also do this without logging in, logging off. How? With the help of source command like this. Source is same as dot space variables dot log. Both are same. Either you use source followed by this one or you use dot space this one. Both are same. Alright. That's what I wanted to show you here. Now let us go to the third topic in this particular session, which is very, very important. Again, expansions and aliases. So when I say expansions, we have different kinds of expansions like brace, tilde. As we have used tilde earlier, I will be now explaining you what is the meaning of tilde. And next is variable expansion, which we have already seen. Dollar is the one that is used to expand the value of a variable, which we already seen. So that we don't need to basically go in detail about it. And then command execution is nothing but using backticks. So backticks, how do we use? Is what I'm going to show you now. And then arithmetic expressions. In case if you have an arithmetic expression and if you wanted to assign that value to a variable along with performing the arithmetic expressions, how do we do? Is what I'm going to show you. And process substitution, that means in case if you have something executed, but you don't want the output to be displayed on the screen, but if you wanted to redirect that to a different variable or a file, how do we do is what we are going to see. So let me show you that before I come back to these topics. But here, this is another way. And if I say day2 is equals to, this is another way of doing it. So that's the reason I'm making sure you know everything maximum out of it. This is also another way of doing it. So let me actually do this so that you know all the possible ways of using these expansions. So yeah, so let me use the first expansion called brace. So in case brace, how is it used? For example, if you have a variable values that has to be displayed called spell, S-P-E-L-L, and S-P-I-L-L, spill, and S-P-A-L-L, spal. Out of all these things, you know S-P and at the last L is common, but if you wanted all the others to also be generated randomly by default, I mean in that particular process, you can use these braces. Now if you see S-P-E-L-L, S-P-I-L-L, S-P-A-L-L, everything has been expanded for you. This is how this expansion works. And now instead you can also say, why should I use L again? I can use instead E-I-A, and after the braces let me give double L. It is also the same. So flower braces is basically without without using dollar. Flower braces by default tells the shell script to expand whatever you write inside this one. So in case if you give something, very much in detail. For example, like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, close it, LL, see the same thing will be repeated. So this is how you can basically use it for array variables basically. That's where I should be basically using it later on when I define or when I write tools. But until then, please make sure you practice the purposes of this braces. Next, tilt. Tilt is nothing but the home variable. So every user who logs into the server, we know that the home variable is set, right? Instead of home variable, you can use tilt. Tilt is the replacement of value of home variable. That's it. If you say echo oracle, tilt oracle, it will give you the home, default home location of oracle user. In case if you say tilt root, it will give you default home location for root user. In case if you have any other user on the operating system, if you wanted to verify what is the default location of that user, you can just say echo tilt and then that username. That's what tilt is used for. Simple and straightforward, isn't it? If you don't specify this oracle also, if you run tilt with oracle user, it will give you the home location of the same user. In the example I said just cat this one. I'm not giving the complete path, but instead I'm saying that in the home location of oracle, you have scripting directory. Inside that script3.sh is there. Just cat it. It has cat it. This example will tell you what is the meaning of tilt. And what is the next expansion? We know there are backticks on your keyboard just above your left corner tab. That is, a caps lock button is there. On top of it, tab is there. On top of it, you have tilde as well as backticks. That will be left side of your number 1 button on your keyboard. You have backticks and also tilde, both there. So if you use shift and then that button, you will get tilde. And instead of that, if you just use that button, you will get backticks like this. Now why is this backtick used? I'm using no backtick saying that date. Now I'm using a variable called date, and now I said backticks and date. That means what is the value of variable now date? It is nothing but it has executed this command on the operating system and it has assigned that value to this variable. That's how it is. So now you can use this technique in case if you have something to be executed on the operating system and that value has to be stored into the variable, then you can use this backtick. So because you might be having something that has to run at that point of time, and then based on the value that you get at that point of time, then you might define the next process in the complete scripting, right? So if you have such scenarios coming up, tilt is the first option that you can make use of it. There is another way also doing it. So if I say date2 is equals to $ with braces open, and if I say date, this will also do the same job. See? But why am I showing you both the things is, these are the possible ways of using the similar kind of requirements can be used with different syntaxes. That's it. Alright, this is the another expansions that you can use for backticks or $ braces. Now, in case if you have arithmetic expressions to be performed, either you can use it like this with double braces, or you can use with closed braces, that is square braces also like this. Both will give you the same result, but these are two different syntaxes. Now if you say value is a variable that I am wanted to be assigned with this, now you see echo $value will give you this one. That means this arithmetic expressions will be executed on the background, and the value out of this result is basically stored into this variable value called value. Alright, yeah, hope it is clear. Now if you want to redirect some output to a file like this, you can just go and type it and say here. Now a file will, if the file is not existing, file will be created, and if the file is existing, greater than symbol will basically erase the complete content in this file, and it will write only this content into this file. So it is very, very dangerous one if the file is already existing. But if this file is not existing in this location, this one can be used without any problem. Now if you say cat output.log, the same thing whatever I set to redirect into a file, the same content is there inside that file. So that's where we can use redirection that is greater. And in case if you wanted to add the same thing to the second line of this file, instead of using one greater than symbol, use two greater than symbols. Now you can see this particular file will have two lines. First line is the first time when I used, second line is the second time when I used. Alright, now very important topic called alias. That is the last topic for this complete session. So let me come back to the topic and then we will do the exercise. So what is alias first of all? Possibly in the introduction chapter or in the first few chapters, second chapter, I should have basically I would have basically said what is an alias. It is nothing but a second name for you. For example, you will be having your pet name. You call with your original name or with your pet name, basically you will respond. Very similarly, in case if you have a very set of commands that has to be executed, in case if you want to simplify running it every time when you want it, basically you can create an alias for yourself. This is also one of the ways to simplify your DBA jobs. Okay, and let us see how is this possible. For example, you have an alias. First of all, there are predefined aliases also created on the server whenever you log in. If you want to see what are the list of aliases which are already available on your server, by default just say alias. See, as soon as you say alias, these are the list of aliases which are already available on your server. That's the reason whenever you say ls, it works. Whenever you say vi, it works. Whenever you say grep, it works. It is only saying the color formats, but that's it. There is nothing else. But just to show you guys how is this working, this is how it works. Now in case if you wanted to create your own alias, how do we do? Just say alias, and if I say dt is equals to, and in single quotes just say what command it has to execute whenever you call dt. So I'm saying in single quotes, whenever I say dt, go and execute date command. Now if I just say dt, it will go and execute date. See, isn't it not beautiful? But please remember, as soon as you log off and log in, this dt alias will not be existing at all, because this whatever alias that you have created, this is a temporary alias which will be only available until unless you exit from this terminal. As soon as you exit from this terminal, dt alias will not be existing at all. Now you might get a question. In case if I wanted to create my permanent alias, how do you do? Can you give a small thought? I mean, think what we have discussed earlier. You might be understanding it better. So now the answer would be simple. Go and add this alias, this one, into your bash profile. So every time when you log in, these aliases will be created for you, right? As soon as you log off, these aliases are gone. But as soon as you log in again, these aliases are there. Is it not simple? Yes. First of all, let us unalias it. So when I say unalias and then dt, now this alias will never work, because until unless you create it. Now I wanted to create a permanent alias, right? So what I'm saying is, go and edit, write an entry in bash underscore profile. So I'm going to the last line and then I say alias. Every time when I log into this, definitely this is the bash underscore profile will run and this alias will be created. Is it not simple? Now if I wanted to rerun this bash profile, as I said, source is a command that I can use. So source, just say dot bash underscore profile. Now bash profile is all reloaded again. Now if I say dt, it works. So this is the way that you can use to create permanent aliases. So we have seen what is the definition of alias. We have seen how do we create a temporary alias. We have also seen how do we create permanent alias by writing an entry in dot bash underscore profile or in dot bash rc. You can create either in dot bash profile or dot bash rc. Why? Because in dot bash profile, it will in turn go and run dot bash rc, right? If you go and create aliases in dot bash rc or dot bash profile, it is one and the same. After running this, it has to come back and run this part of the script also, isn't it? Because scripting is nothing but line by line execution. Though you write aliases list here in this file or you write aliases list here, there is no difference, because you might be finding in your projects aliases might be created in this file rather than dot bash underscore profile. That's where you can make use of it. So that's what our discussion is for this session. That's it. So what is that we have understood so far? In this particular session, we have understood how the initialization happens in the shell, what are the different scripts that runs at the background, and what is the functionality. Then we have seen, what are the variables, how do we define variables, what are the reserved variables, not to use variables, and we have also seen expansions, operators, and then we have seen, quotation characters like single quotes, backslash, and then also double quotes. And then we have also seen expansions like flower braces, closed braces, backticks, and also arithmetic expressions, how do we basically deal, and then also aliases. So we have done so much, but this is all basics. Without this, it would be very tough for us to go forward and write a script. And we have also seen how do we redirect the output of one command into a different file or a variable. It can be anything. We will be discussing that later anyway. Alright, so that's it for this session. Thank you. We'll meet in the next session to discuss the next topics of the second chapter.